By 1923, Chaney was no longer just a versatile character actor. He had developed a healthy following and a screen persona all his own. But he had yet to be showcased in a large-scale, prestigious production. It has long been assumed that his first screen spectacle, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, was the brainchild of producer Irving Thalberg. But documents recently unearthed by Chaney biographer Michael F. Blake show that it was Chaney who first visualized the project and fought the hardest to bring it to the screen. In 1921, he began negotiating for the rights to Victor Hugo's novel, and at one time planned to finance the production independently with the help of a small group of investors. Finally, Chaney convinced his longtime employer, Universal Studios, to undertake the project, which he declared would be his greatest portrayal to date. Chaney argued that Universal could only do justice to Hugo's novel by mounting a lavish, high-profile spectacle. Studio head Carl Laemmle agreed. Under Thalberg's supervision, the studio's army of carpenters and artists were ordered to recreate medieval France on the Universal back lots. This task involved more than 750 crew members and covered 19 acres of land. Here we see the doorway to the Notre Dame Cathedral and surrounding buildings under construction. The reason the cameraman didn't show more of the massive cathedral is that there was nothing else to show. Only a few lower stories of Notre Dame were constructed full size. In shots where the entire structure was to be shown, an elaborate miniature cathedral was suspended in front of the camera, its base perfectly aligned with the top of the full-scale set. On screen, it gives the illusion that the grand cathedral had been constructed in its entirety. Chaney was so proud to be making Hunchback that he made an exception to his own rule about promotional appearances, and in a 1923 newsreel gave a brief, plainclothes demonstration of the performance that was to come. The performance was to be his most difficult yet. It called for a great deal of physical acrobatics as Quasimodo, the hunchbacked bell ringer of Paris, frolics on the gargoyles that decorate the cathedral's facade. Complicating these feats were the shriveled posture Chaney had to maintain, the 20-pound plaster hump strapped to his back, and the heavy makeup that covered his face, completely blocking all vision in the right eye. Secretly aiding him in his task were several stuntmen, including Joe Bonamo and Harvey Perry, who doubled for Chaney in some of the more dangerous scenes. One stuntman was hospitalized for rope burns while rehearsing the film's most dangerous stunt, which Bonamo eventually performed by having thick insulation sewn into his costume and gloves. Chaney's co-star in The Hunchback, Patsy Ruth Miller.
One of the things that I learned about acting from him was that you don't have to feel the emotion enough to really cry real tears or tear yourself apart. I don't think he would have approved of the School of Acting bit. What he kept saying to me, remember, you are an actress, and an actress's job is to make the audience feel. Doesn't matter whether you're torn apart inside. If you do not tear the audience apart, you are not playing the part well. You don't have to have real tears, he said. Yeah, this glycerin tears are just as good. The point is not that you can cry, but that you can make your audience cry.
Perhaps no scene better illustrates the beauty and barbarity of Chaney's performance as the Hunchback than the one in which Esmeralda hears the anguished cries of the flogged Quasimodo. And of course, there is the requisite blood and thunder, intensified sharply by the extraordinary production values with which the film was endowed. The oftentimes gruesome nature of Chaney's films was a cause of some concern to studio management, who attempted to downplay the more grotesque elements. Sidney Singerman edited several of Chaney's films.
Some of the stuff I think in the Hunchback of Notre Dame was kind of scary. Wasn't good business to be in a picture, and I must have cut out some of those type of scenes. We cut out some scenes once in a while because the president of Columbia Universal Pictures at that time, he didn't like anything too rough in the picture, and he instructed us to cut it out. Those big pictures, like Lon Chaney or Von Stroheim or something, there was always some rough stuff in those pictures that you could take out, nobody would know the difference, you know. And the old man, Carl Lumley, he didn't like too much rough stuff. He didn't like to see a young girl drop down a sewer and all that stuff. He didn't go for that. And he used to order it, he himself personally would tell us to cut it out.
In time, Universal eased its restriction on the unsavory. The American horror movie was born. On September 2nd, 1923, Chaney's dream was at last a reality, as The Hunchback of Notre Dame opened at New York's Astor Theater, where it played an incredible 21 weeks before moving into wider release. Though some critics complained that the scale of production had been too overwhelming, the public disagreed. Hunchback went on to become Universal's top-grossing film of the year. After more than a decade in the industry, Lon Chaney was now a star of the first order.